Why do some airlines call themselves Airlines or Airlines, while others call themselves Airways, and still others call themselves Air? To some degree, the name reflects different ways of conceptualizing the revolutionary new mode of travel in the skies. So in this video, we take a look at where the terms Air, Airlines and Airways come from, why different carriers adopted different naming conventions, and how the history of ships, trains and early aviation helped shape the names we still see on aircraft today. And be sure to check out Simpleflying's flight tracker. From live alerts and data on commercial, military and government flights, it goes way beyond your standard tracker. It was built specifically for avgeeks, free and live, right at your fingertips. When a new mode of travel emerges, it typically looks back on previously established modes of transportation to define itself. For example, traveling in space is a new form of transportation in need of a new set of vocabulary. In the series Star Trek, this vocabulary is pulled from ships. For example, the commander is the captain, while the control room is not called the flight deck or space deck, but rather by the naval term, the bridge. Spaceships are called, well, space ships, instead of spacecraft or space buses. The key spaceship in the series is the USS Enterprise, with USS happening to also be the designation of US Navy ships, and the Enterprise being the most famous US warship of World War II, and the name of the 18th century English explorer Captain James Cook's famous ship. The fictional character Captain James T. Kirk is named after and inspired by Captain Cook. The same happened with the dawn of trains and aircraft. Trains emerged in the 19th century and pulled their vocabulary from ships, while aircraft emerged in the 20th century and went further. Look at fighter pilots, including those of World War II, and they're dressed nothing like commercial pilots. That's because Pan Am set the tradition of dressing its pilots in sea captain uniforms to look more professional. Adding to that, Pan Am's early clippers were named after the type of sailing ship. At one point, ocean travel was the only form of international travel between continents separated by the ocean. The term line came to refer to an ocean route between 2 points, with a liner being the ships sailing along said line. As the liner sailed on the ocean, it came to be called an ocean liner. Soon, companies were established that used line in their names, like Black Ball Line and American President Lines. Train travel emerged later. Trains soon adopted this ocean liner vocabulary while also using terms from ground transportation. Thus, the train's rail track became either the railroad or the railway, interchangeable terms. The industry used terms like main line and spur line, while most train companies chose to use the terms road or way in their names, like Western Pacific Railroad and Canadian National Railway. As air travel took off, some companies borrowed from the ocean heritage, while others also borrowed from the rail heritage, which had in turn borrowed from the ocean liner heritage. Some early companies called themselves Airlines, or the alternative spelling, Airlines. Examples include Eastern Airlines and Delta Airlines. Some may associate Airways with a British variant. After all, the British flag carrier is British Airways, while the leading US carriers are American Airlines, Southwest Airlines, and so on. However, this doesn't stand up to scrutiny. The US has also had airlines called Airways, like the major carrier US Airways, which merged into American in 2013, and the new Breeze Airways. Airways or air routes refer to the roads or pathways aircraft fly in the sky. They're designated routes that airplanes fly to aid in navigation and help with separation to avoid accidents. Airways comes from conceptualizing commercial flights as flying the new roads of the skies. In the United States, it's more common to say railroad, but in Britain, it's more common to say railway, and also roadway. However, railway is also used in the US, for example, the Kansas City Southern Railway. As airlines developed, some chose to pull from the railway terminology and called themselves Western Canadian Airways, formed in 1926, and Imperial Airways, formed in 1924. Perhaps the two most famous airlines today called Airways are British Airways and Qatar Airways. Spelling has long since been somewhat flexible and often ambiguous. The age of the dictionary and computer spell checks has introduced more rigidity into the system, but it remains flexible and changing. Previous to the publications of the American Webster Dictionary and British Oxford Dictionary, spelling variations now associated with American or British spelling could be found on both sides of the Atlantic. For example, the accepted American spelling is theater, but old US theaters like Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., which opened in 1863, preserve spelling from a time when theatre was an accepted American spelling. It was the same with airline and airline. Back then, both spellings were acceptable, and there wasn't yet a standard. More than anything, standards follow consensus. Over time, as more airlines chose to remove the space and call themselves airline, airline became a more fringe spelling and perhaps somewhat archaic. Airlines like Japan Airlines changed their names to Japan Airlines. It's worth noting the spelling remains ocean liner, not ocean liner, while the aviation counterpart is airliner. Today, the only major airline to still use the spelling Airlines is Delta Airlines. Delta is one of the world's oldest airlines with a long and proud history stretching back to 1925 and is the oldest airline still operating in the United States. Companies that boast such heritage don't need to be modern, they are original. Air refers to the environment where the airlines operate, as opposed to road or sea. Again, the choice of naming is little more than marketing. Everyone knows what air means. Air is an English word that many foreign carriers also choose to use instead of their local word for air. Examples include Air France, Air Asia, and others. However, many other foreign airlines do choose to use the word in the language of their home country for air. One notable example is the Irish flag carrier Aer Lingus, which translates to Air Fleet, air being spelled AER. Although the massive ultra-low-cost Irish carrier Ryanair uses the English air, it places it at the end of the word. The Spanish carrier Vueling means flight. Another example is Lufthansa in German. Luft means air, while Hansa means guild and refers to the Hanseatic League. It was originally stylized as Lufthansa. Some airlines in the world translate airlines, such as Argentina's Aerolíneas Argentinas. Meanwhile, Azul Brazilian Airlines is formerly called Azul Linhas Aéreas Brasileiras. In short, airlines' naming conventions have been pulled from modes of transportation that came before them, notably ocean travel and train travel, which are also borrowed from ocean travel. The use of air is a shorthand way to let people know the mode of transportation is airborne. Delta's Airlines is now a relic of a previous time when it represented an accepted alternative spelling. Today, it reflects the age and heritage of Delta as the oldest airline in the United States. Ultimately, it's all a question of marketing. As English is the world's international language and is the undisputed language of international aviation and international travel, most airlines use English words, mostly air, airline, or airways, in their titles. Many of the world's airlines that use their own words are old flag carrier airlines whose founding dates from before English had the status it does today. Examples include Aeroflot, Lufthansa, Avianca, Aeromexico, and KLM, which is officially Koninklijke Luchtvaartmaatschappij in Dutch. The word fly is used in Fly Dubai, the word express is used in Sun Express, the word jet is used in EasyJet, and the word go is used in Indigo. Link is used in CityLink, Sky is in SkyWest, and Wings is used in Eurowings. Some of these airlines also use Airlines or Airways in their names. What do you think? If you were starting an airline today, would you choose Air, Airlines, Airways, or would you create an entirely new name that reflects the future of aviation? Let us know by leaving a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more aviation content. See you next time. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles and a podcast every week. Visit simpleflying.com.